turning momentum into measurable economic outcomes. The 6th South Africa Investment Conference, live on 702.
Back with you. It's 9 minutes after 10 o'clock. The beauty of live radio. You see what happens. We are really live. It's not an AI operation. That's why there was that bit of a hiccup. We're coming to you live from Sandton Convention Center. Great having you with us. And earlier on, some of you were saying that you want to ask our guests various questions about the investment conference. So I'm happy for you to do that. Mark Goliath, Divisional Executive for Manufacturing at IDC, is sitting in front of me. And Mark, welcome. I hope you're good.
Good morning. I'm very good this morning.
Yeah, I want us first. I know people know it, and we all think that we know it. Tell us about IDC. Just on the main, just a brief background. What is it that you do for someone who is a bit hazy? We understand that you're I Development Corporation. We understand that you're involved in funding, but give us a bit of a brief insight into IDC before we kick off.
No, thank you. So the IDC is a development finance institution, probably the largest development finance institution in South Africa. And our main mandate is to foster industrialization within South Africa and within sub-Saharan Africa. The sub-Saharan Africa component has become more apparent as the African Continental Free Trade Area starts being implemented. So our main role is industrialization across the manufacturing, mining, chemical spaces. Yeah. And then the one exception is in services, where we have a view on tourism and enabling the growth in the tourism sector.
From 1 million rand you fund to how much?
The cap, I can't say the cap is unlimited, but our sweet spot is probably a max of about 1.5 billion.
Okay. And your role here, what is it exactly at the investment conference? One would have thought that you are here and you are a state-owned entity. And so your role here, is it also to pump some funding into various government projects, or what is it exactly?
Not necessarily various government projects. I mean, the IDC is one of government's enablers. And we partner with government in trying to attract either foreign direct investment or enable projects to get off the ground. So it's not necessarily just specific government projects, but the commitments that are being made by some of the businesses today does require additional funding. And that's where we play a role in supporting those initiatives.
Can I go to IDC and request money for establishing a factory that's going to hire about 500 to 800 individuals, and it will be involved in manufacturing, taking raw materials and turning them into the ultimate end usable product?
You could. Yeah. The issue is always that we fund on the basis that businesses will be sustainable. Yeah. So it is informed by the business proposals that are put to us. Yeah. And whether there is what we deem sustainability in that business going forward. Yeah. I cannot say that everybody walking through the door will be approved for funding. Yes. But what we do seek to do is also to try and support entrepreneurs that come through the door but doesn't necessarily have a fully fledged business proposal, but have a sound business concept. Yeah,
you're the Divisional Executive for Manufacturing at IDC. What are your insights on the state of manufacturing in South Africa? Because we are always told, either through platitudes or factual, anecdotal assertions, that we are more of consumers than producers. The state of manufacturing in South Africa?
It has seen some tough times post-COVID. I think we have seen a decline in certain subsectors of manufacturing. Manufacturing is still a keen contributor to the South African GDP. And I think what we've seen in the past 18 months is a growth in manufacturing stature once again. There are key enablers which support manufacturing, and those is infrastructure through roads, railway, and electricity as examples.
Yeah.
And where we've been put on the back foot over the last few years is access to electricity was a problem, continuous access. Now we've overcome that, and you would have seen in the media that the cost of electricity is the next hurdle to overcome. The logistics, transport logistics for manufacturers are an important element, and that's where Transnet's almost improvement over the last 12 months has really supported the manufacturing sector.
Yes.
And we're looking keenly to see the growth in that transport logistics area, which will really drive improved manufacturing capacity locally.
Earlier on, we had a call from one of the individuals who is involved in Black Entrepreneurs Association. I forgot the actual name of that, but he said he'll call back again. It was Refilo from Reimsech. And this prompts the question, where are the opportunities for aspiring entrepreneurs? Because entrepreneurs at times feel as though entities such as IDC are far away from where they are, and perhaps it could be only a select few that get to benefit. Where are the low-hanging opportunities for entrepreneurs?
They're across multiple value chains, and I think it depends on the area and sphere of influence that you as an entrepreneur have. I was just speaking to a gentleman earlier who is operating in the chrome space and converting chrome to chrome concentrate. A small business that has an opportunity. And it's very difficult to pin it down because there are niche opportunities in every value chain. Yeah. And I think when entrepreneurs look at those opportunities or look at a value chain, they need to identify not what the bulk commodity and what everybody else is doing, but what are the niches that create linkages that are important to that value chain, and see how we expand on that. Yeah. Because quite often it's difficult for entrepreneurs to come into an environment where you're competing with big bulk commodity products.
Yeah.
And hence you need to try and see how you play in a niche space that actually enables the manufacturing. So your manufacturing is an enabler, and the auto space is an example of that, where there's a multitude of componentry that goes into automotive.
Yeah.
And things like logistics in automotive are important.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to say where are the low-hanging fruit. They are everywhere.
Sure. And another difficult question, the funding process. The funding becomes a little bit problematic if you don't understand what is required, and if you feel that the requirements are tedious and are burdensome, and you could easily decide not even to apply. Share a bit about the funding process in layman's terms, as if you're talking to a high school child. Where does it start, and where does it hopefully eventually end with IDC saying check your bank account?
Yeah, so I suppose the starting point for most people is our website, where we have a detailed list of criteria and requirements that is put forward. And I think the difficulty that many of our potential clients have is that it is a significant list. Right? And we acknowledge that. And I think the one area that our CE and Exco and board are working very hard on is how do we simplify our process.
Yes.
So we are moving into an environment where we would like to embrace AI as part of our application process. It's coming.
Sure.
So that would be the first port of call, is actually developing a business proposal, because we don't work on application forms. Yeah. We work on business proposals that you put to us.
Yeah.
And that is a key point of difference with many other commercial banks or other DFIs. Once you submitted the business proposal to us, which you can do physically through either our regional offices, which we have in each province, or via the internet through our portal on our website, there is a process where that application is initially desktop assessed. And 9 out of 10 times there will be additional information required, which is then back and forth between the potential client and the individual who's dealing with the application. Once it goes through that gate, there's a team assigned to do a due diligence to unpack that application. Once the due diligence concluded and it's found that there is merit in the application, it then goes to an approval body which considers the application, and at that point you will know whether you've been successful in the application for funding or not. Money in your account flows after that.
I see.
Because obviously there's a legal process with agreements, and once that is concluded and the conditions are met, we can then disperse funding.
Notwithstanding the back and forths, perhaps I forgot to cross my T's and dot my I's. Notwithstanding that, on average, how long does it take from myself submitting my proposal, not the application forms, and to ultimately being asked to come through? And then we're talking about the contract because my proposal was favorably deemed.
I think I'm working on the principle that there's no back and forth. First time, everything's right. I would say approximately 3 months to money from that initial proposal to money in your account, 3 months. I think what we found, though, is what skews that timeline is the back and forth.
Can I put a proposal for equity acquisitions and all of those? Perhaps I want to buy shares at Macro. I'm making a very stupid example because I know nothing about the retail space, so I don't want to say a radio station because that'll be conflicted. So it's assuming I'm interested in buying Macro shares or Massmat or whoever. Are you willing to say, great, Thabo wants to buy 40% of this entity's equity? Would you be able to fund that? And how much do I need upfront as part of the process?
So no, we focus on industrial capacity. So retail would not form part of that as an example. So that would be one of the gates that we would check whether it's within our mandate or not. But we do fund acquisitions. I'll use an example of a manufacturing facility making widgets. If you then want to purchase that or acquire that facility, we do finance that. We would at the minimum request a contribution from the entrepreneur, and that could range anywhere. I suppose the general minimum we look at is 10%. For the acquisition value, but it is something that we have found to be burdensome, right? Because depending on the size of the acquisition, not everybody has a few million waiting around. Right there. So we are looking at mechanisms at how we can support entrepreneurs through that.
And a bit of skin in the game from myself is necessary.
100%.
And that can be negotiable.
It can be negotiable depending on the situation for each transaction, because skin in the game keeps us both honest.
And committed. Mark Goliath is a Divisional Executive for Manufacturing at IDC, and he's my guest right now. If there's anything that you need to know about IDC, and this is on the backdrop of the South Africa Investment Conference taking place, we're live at the Sandton Convention Center. They're here as well, and they might want to hear what your thoughts are, and perhaps you've approached IDC before, especially in the manufacturing space specifically, not generally, specifically in the manufacturing space, so that Mark is able to respond to that. Feel free to give us a call on 011-883-0702, 011-883-0702. Alternatively, send a voice note to 072-702-1702. Mark, I am concerned a little bit about perhaps business outside the country. Are you able to fund those? Perhaps in the SADC region, I approach you and I say, listen, there's a bit of action in Namibia. I want a little bit of it, and I want to set up a manufacturing plant. I'll be taking things from South Africa and into Namibia, and it's viable. And due diligence allowing. Are you open to that?
Yes, we are. We are taking a regional approach. One of our strategic objectives is the creation and facilitation of regional value chains. So as it results in beneficiation.
Yeah.
I'll use a simple example. The SADC region grows a lot of cotton. But we only beneficiate about 1.5% of that.
Wow.
And the rest is exported raw.
That's low.
Exactly. So the objective that we're working on with the African Continental Free Trade Commission is to see how we grow the local beneficiation of cotton into fabrics and garments for either consumption locally or for potential export markets. That is a typical example of why we now are taking a keen interest in looking at supporting investments outside of South Africa in the region.
I want to ask you about your impressions of the conference thus far, but prior to that, it would be amiss of me not to ask about businesses that are concentrated in the townships, rural areas, peri-urban entities where they feel marginalized, not geographically only, but economically. I could be wanting to set up perhaps a small manufacturing entity in Tembisa, in Batu Township, in Bloemfontein, in KwaZakele, in East London, or perhaps right here in Diepkloof in Soweto, where I could be needing about 10 million rands, and I wanted specifically in the townships, perhaps it would be a tire manufacturing entity because there's so many taxis and I see an opportunity there. I just want us to be practical because at times I think we're speaking above pragmatic issues. Are those the kind of things that you'd be keen to look into? I'm not saying invest in them, but would those fit the criteria?
They would. And I think we as IDC need to acknowledge that we have not been great at investing in small business.
Yeah.
I think we have been, over the last 70 years, fairly committed in investing in bigger businesses.
Yeah.
So our systems and processes are set up for bigger businesses. And we've acknowledged that. And one of the things we are now doing, in fact, as we speak, is really looking at how we can better support small and medium enterprises, because they cannot go through the rigor of process that we expect. So yes, we are looking to do more, be more active in the space that you've just highlighted now, acknowledging that we have not been successful in really advancing money, and it is really a process and expectation thing from an IDC perspective, where we were almost using a one-size-fits-all approach, and it doesn't. So we've just conducted a study by a third party who told us in no uncertain terms that your processes are not geared to funding small businesses. So
we need you to do that, and I'm not going to press you on the turnaround time because I'm sure it also depends on other facets of your leadership up there, the board, the executives, and everything else. But I think it's very important to do that and support township-based businesses because the economy is there. I mean, that's where the economy is. The money is exchanging hands every single day. Lastly, then your impressions about the conference. Is it going well? And I'm sure this is not the first that you've attended. Based on the previous experience, how's this one going?
No, I think it's an exciting one, especially that we didn't really have one last year. So there's renewed support and vigor upstairs. We've managed to support quite a few operational businesses over the last few years as an outcome of the conference. And I think this year is going to be exceptional. From just the limited 1 hour chats I've had around, there seems to be some very interesting proposals that are going to be put forward that will really benefit the country. No, we look forward to speaking to you again, Mark. We are neighbors. Indeed.
You are literally our next door neighbor at Prime Media. I was there yesterday in your office to pick up my accreditation, but my biggest concern is that let's prioritize it. And once you have sorted out your systems, and once you have found a way of speaking to entrepreneurs in the townships, and you have eased the passage of business, please let us know. We're just literally next door. Knock on our door. We'll be happy to speak to you about it.
Thank you. That will be perfect.
Mark Goliath is my guest, and he is with IDC. And Mark was speaking specifically on issues that have to do with manufacturing. Feel free to send your questions to 011-883-0702, and he's a Divisional Executive for Manufacturing at IDC. It is almost 10:30, and on the other end of Sfiso giving us eyewitness news, we will continue with various other guests from the South Africa Investment Conference. What is it that you want to know? I mean, they are looking for 2 trillion rands. That's what South Africa is looking for from this event. So do share your views a little bit later on. For now,